I backed off on the weight a little bit here. And, we've been talking quite a bit about this balance between progressive overload, chasing additional weight and reps, and then perfecting your form, feeling the movement more. Kind of, you could look at it as moving the weight versus moving the muscle. And I think striking a balance between the two things is of importance and has kind of been my primary focus right now, because it seems like the maximum amount of weight that I can move where I still feel the muscle stretching and contracting seems to be producing the most growth for me. And over the previous 2 months in September and October, I was kind of doing a deload where we dropped the weight quite a bit. In the triceps, I went down to the 115-pound dumbbell. Biceps, I think we might have also gone down to 115 pounds on the easy curl bar, maybe 110. Slow the form down, feel that stretch, feel the squeeze. And in every movement, I wasn't really that worried or focused on increasing the weight, increasing the reps. I just, this is the weight I'm going to use, and I want to feel every rep. In the triceps, I want to feel the triceps stretching as I lower the dumbbell behind my head, and I want to extend up, feel that tricep contract. And I don't think you can really do both simultaneously. On the flip side, if you're really focused on getting a certain number, I think it takes away from your ability to feel the stretch, the squeeze, the activation of the muscle. The two things kind of oppose each other. You can manage both to a degree, but one sort of takes from the other. That's what I've seen from it. And so now that deload has ended, a couple weeks into November, I increased from the 115-pound dumbbell up to the 120 and then the 130, mostly because the 125s are all crooked and janky. And then I even went up to the 135. And then I was reflecting over this past week. I'm like, I kind of tell after like a week of lifting if I'm stimulating more growth or not. And I'm just like, I feel like I'm not. I feel like I didn't make any additional gains here. It just doesn't look like it. And so I started thinking about what I was doing different. I was like, I really cranked the weight up a lot. And I think I went too far. So the 135, I've gone heavier than that in the past. But at that point, I am kind of losing control of the movement where I can actually consciously feel the stretch and the squeeze. The weight has gotten so heavy that, I'm still getting 12 reps. And the form looks pretty good if you go and watch the last episode, maybe day 59, day 57. But it's sped up enough and the weight is heavy enough that my little brain can't consciously hold on to, okay, I'm going for X amount of reps and I'm focusing on this for progressive overload, and I also am focusing on the stretch and the squeeze and the feel. So that's where that threshold was. And backing off just a little bit, dropping that down to the 130 is like perfect. It's heavy as fuck. But I can actually feel the tricep working more. And same thing with the biceps. I think I went down to the 120. Whereas we were doing some of the sets with the 130 on the easy curl bar. Was that right? Or the 125 or 130. Drop back down to 120, less reps, like 10 reps, slower, accentuate that stretch a bit more, get that elbow joint opening up all the way or close to get that good stretch tension on the bicep, and then come all the way up and squeeze and feel it contract. And the weight's heavy as hell. But I'm thinking about, I have a rough idea of the reps I want, but I'm kind of biasing more. Okay, the weight's heavy, and I'm going to work here, with the biceps with this 120 for a while. We might stay here for a few weeks, and I want to milk the stimulation, the activation, the stretch, and the squeeze out of every rep. And same thing with the triceps at the 130. And I think, part of the reason that I saw actually quite a bit of good growth through the deload months of September and October is because of this. Because prior to that, I was, leaning much more into throwing heavy weight around. If you went back and watched any of my videos from June, July, or August, the weight is even heavier, but the form is a little sloppier. And that doesn't mean that that's not beneficial. And, maybe I kind of laid some of the bricks that I'm now, benefiting from, meaning, I pushed the weight up higher and I gained that additional strength. But I'm not really executing, with the 145 behind the head where I can actually feel for the triceps, I can feel the stretch and the squeeze. But because, I trained at that weight for a while, then backing off, to the 115, the 120, and now even the 130, now I can move these weights in a controlled way where I feel like I'm stimulating growth. And I think that if I just stayed always focusing on activation, that I would also miss out. And so I think both tools are useful, and it's kind of a constant game of oscillating between the two of like, I'm going to prioritize the feel of the movement here versus let's make sure we get an extra rep. Let's make sure I'm bumping the weight up every month. And so I think using both of those methods kind of back and forth and looking for that spot where your body seems to respond the best. And right now I think that, the previous workouts, the weight was just a little too heavy. I'm bringing it back a little bit so I can tap back into that feeling of actually feeling an activation, actually feeling the good stretch and the good squeeze is where I want to be. And I still am keeping it in the back of my mind what the reps are, and I will, kind of try to, progress that up. But whenever I make that the primary goal, and I'm like, I got 13 last time, I got to get 14, I just immediately start to slip from the activation. And I think back like, I've been like 2-3 workouts, like I'm not really feeling the muscles working in any of these sets. And it seemingly is important. And that's just from what my body is telling me, not from some fucking study or from some freaking thing that somebody else is saying. I got a little aggressive there, but not to say that couldn't be useful, but I'm not drawing that conclusion from something anyone else has said per se. Just I've tried both and I continue to experiment both, and then I assess how my body responds, which, if you watch some of these videos, I think that's hopefully something that you take away, is that, experimenting on yourself is really valuable, especially as you get more advanced, because, any coach or any science, like it's not perfectly mimicking your body. It doesn't know your exact biology, your psychology, everything that goes into it. And so as you get more advanced, I think just like taking ownership of your training and just trying shit and then getting in tune with your body and assessing what your body responds to. It's so much more useful. You don't have to worry about what people are arguing about online. Like, it doesn't even really matter. Like, you can argue all you want, man. Like, I know what I'm doing, and I know the results I'm getting. And I know the things I've done that haven't led to as good of results, and I don't care who's right, who's wrong, this way, that way. Like, this isn't, like, I want the results, and if I experiment on myself and I'm willing to try different things and I develop an understanding of how my body responds by looking in the mirror, doing measurements, weighing myself, paying attention, to fullness, to how flat you feel, to, and as the years go by, you eventually get a good framework of like, whoa, my body's growing. Whoa, my body's not doing shit. It's been 3 months. I haven't grown at all. What have I been doing? What does my training look like? What are the changes I've made? And if you kind of take this detective mindset, you slowly piece together the puzzle of some of the things that work better than others. And ultimately, that's what I've condensed down into my ARM course on my website. Everything that has worked and hasn't. And I think there's a good amount of overlap across individuals, but you may not have the exact same experience for me, but it's a collection of all the anecdotal experiences and experimentation I've done to stimulate arm growth. Starting out with 12, 13 inches, just, some skinny little spindlers splitting out my sleeves there. And, we've just slowly built that up. What are you doing? Freaked me out. I was like, what the yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could see your reflection. I was like, who the hell is in the house? God. It's crazy. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so, and again, I think I've said this in other videos. I mean, you guys probably get sick of me talking about the dang ARM program, but the motivation to create that was like, there's a bunch of different like bullshit in the fitness space, and you can sell this or sell that, and like a lot of it is not like authentic material that's really going to help you. And I realized that, and I was like, well, what would I actually need? What would have immensely helped me? I was like, if somebody who had done the work, started with 12-inch arms, and over many, many years grew them to 18 inches, and paid close attention to everything they did, and then documented all of that, condensed it down for me, so I don't have to experiment with everything as well. Like, and the amount of years that I could have saved from not trying all this stuff that didn't work at all. I was like, this would be super valuable. Like, me at 18, like, I would have paid freaking maybe $1,000 for that. To be like, oh, this could give me progress so much faster, because it can be overwhelming. It's hard to know what works, and there's so many people that are just trying to prey on people's vulnerabilities in the fitness space. And if you want results, but you don't like the process, which is most people, there's always going to be wolves out there that are going to manipulate you and sell you on some shit. And I've been that person that you get sold. And then if you stick around for long enough, you realize this and you realize the cycle. And it's just unfortunate. And it's hard to stand, passionate about working out and fitness, gaining muscle. And this is part of our industry, man. It's always going to be there. You're always going to have these kind of bad faith actors that are just trying to manipulate people who are vulnerable and want results but don't want the process. And so that leaves them ripe to vulnerability. A lot of times they don't realize it. And then they get sold a false bill of goods because it's what they want to hear, and they'll exchange their monetary earnings for, a perspective of what's gonna lead to the growth. But it's just what's gonna sell based on their false understanding of the process and their desire to not accept the truth of the process, or maybe they're just even naive to it. And so anyways, getting a little conspiratorial there. But also with the enhancements I'm doing now, the past several years, as I was approaching my natural limit for arm growth, I was kind of assessing and looking and like TRT, like what are these other things people are doing, people that are blasting gear, like what is this whole world, and what are the risks? What are the potential upsides? Like there's a lot of gray area. There's not a lot of transparency to make an actual educated, informed decision for yourself. It's hard to get access to truthful information and people who just share openly what they're doing. And so that's the other thing that I've now added to the site. And all of it is for one price of $9. You get access to all the ARM programs, all the ARM information and videos and tutorials and everything. And then like weekly update videos about what I'm doing in terms of the enhanced world. I just filmed a video going through my recent blood work, talking about every little thing in detail, talking about the protocols, the things I'm using, and the results that I'm getting, to be transparent, to give you guys something that again I would have paid at least hundreds of dollars for to have access. Obviously I'm biased, but I'm just trying to explain where I'm coming from and why I think, at the end of the day, like making money is important, but also providing something that genuinely helps people. Like I want to lay down in my bed at night and feel like this is a good thing. And if it's not, I'm like, I can't justify selling a false bill of goods just so I can make a little extra money to buy something nicer. It just seems like an empty life. So these are things that I think will genuinely help you. And in the enhanced world, I would say the consequences are more dire if you don't make an educated decision. Like if you get sold a false bill of goods in terms of a physique transformation or getting abs or gaining some muscle, it's like worst thing that happens is you put a bunch of effort in and it turns out that you were kind of lied to about what to expect, you weren't given good information, and you don't actually get the results. But you're still exercising at least, right? Like you're still in the gym doing something, but you'll feel frustrated, but you will have likely improved your health. Whereas with the enhanced world, like if you take that on, you can ruin your health or deteriorate your health. And so the lack of transparent information, people that are whether you think my physique is good or not, you can see what my physique looks like. You can see the changes that are happening. And then if you're subscribed on the site, you can see exactly what my blood work looks like, what my dosages are, what compounds I'm using, and what experiences I'm having, what things I'm learning, what misconceptions are out there. And ultimately just transparently sharing the process. Like I'm kind of the guinea pig to be like, okay, I'm doing this. And if I was me like 2-3 years ago, who wanted to do research to learn and understand like what the risks are, what the benefit is, and if it even makes sense to me. Because for a lot of you might be slightly interested if you're into the gym and building muscle. Oh man, maybe I'll go not natural, or maybe I'll try this, and maybe I'll enhance. But you don't really understand what all the benefits are, what all the risks are, and you can't make an educated decision. Because I'm not here to tell you what's right for you or what's worth it for you in your life, because I don't know what your motivations are, your psychology is, what your experiences have been. And I don't think anybody necessarily can tell you that this is the right decision, that's the wrong decision. But you could determine for yourself potentially what the right decision is if you're given access to all the information transparently so that you actually can form accurate expectations of what's going to happen if I do this, if I do that. And then given that information, in my mind, that's why I'm sharing it on the website for a small price. I want to help people to make a good decision, and there to be transparent, information. A lot of, there's other sources that you can check out, and there's a lot of people talking about this stuff now, but I couldn't find something where the person was consistently showing their progress. Like a lot of times it's guys that have been doing it for 20 years. And then they're just like sharing their knowledge and thoughts. Like, well, what happened? Like, and a lot of times they don't even show their physique. It's just like a head in the frame on a podcast over and over. I'm like, what do you look like? Like, okay, this is cool, and I feel like I'm learning things, but I want to see like somebody who, I look and I like their physique, and I can see the progress they've made from point A to point B, and what side effects did they experience? What things did they do? What did their blood work look like? What did they learn? Like all of that transparently. To me, there's a gap there where a lot of people aren't doing that. They're just like, oh, I'm not natural, but then they don't tell you what they're doing. Or people lie about being not natural, or they're open about it, but they don't give you the specifics, and therefore it's still difficult for anybody to assess. And I think a lot of people would make the assessment like, I love the gym. It's like my number one passion activity. So for me, I made the calculation or the estimate that it's going to be worth it. There's some risks, but I think the upside is worth it because it's my favorite thing to do. And I can get more out of it by doing this. After training for 15 years naturally. But for a lot of people, it's like, I think a lot of people would come to the conclusion, if they're given the accurate, transparent information, they'd be like, that's not worth it. Like, it's not what you think. There's no easy pill. There's a cost and a trade-off to everything. And the trade-off could be worth it for you depending on what your priorities are and what you want to get out of it. But for a lot of people, I think a lot of people who decide to take something, they end up regretting it because they didn't have an accurate view of the risks, the rewards, and they weren't giving transparent information to actually understand the whole process and what everything is going to entail, what they're all going to go through. For most people, unless you're about the gym and you freaking love it, for most people, they're going to be like, oh, wow, okay, not worth it. And to me, that's a good thing too. The worst thing is people that decide to take something and then, 6 months later, their health is worse. They lose any of the progress they made, the little that they did make, and then they're regretting it and they're frustrated that somebody influenced them to go down that path. And then they realize, man, if I had known this, if I had known that, I wouldn't have done these things. I wouldn't. And it's your health you're playing with at the end of the day. So you need actual proper information so you can make a good decision. Again, I'm not here to tell you what's a good decision. You have to decide for yourself what's a good decision, but you can't make a good decision if you don't have access to the truth of the information and the knowledge. And in the general fitness space, the schemes and the scams out there to manipulate you, again, the consequences aren't that dire. It tricks you, you buy something, and they make it seem like it's this and that, and you go to the gym, you exercise, you don't get the result, but you're probably not sacrificing your health. Deciding to go enhance, be not natural, if you don't do it with access to the right information, the right knowledge, and like a close to accurate understanding of what's really going to happen, what the truth is, then you could seriously be regretting it, and I think that's a big problem. And you could ideologically be like, nobody should do it. This is the world we're in, man. These things exist. The gym culture is continuing to expand every year, and people are exposed to these things. They have these options. So if that's the case, wouldn't it be better if everyone had better knowledge and understanding and access to information so they can educate themselves and make a better decision? I think that's a realistic solution, in my opinion. Instead of just like, it shouldn't be like this. Well, nobody should do that stuff. Nobody should take those things. Nobody should ever do that. So people are, okay? That's a great, I don't know, you live in an upside down ideology, perfect world that things should be like this. You keep getting stuck on, if you get stuck focusing on what the world should be forever and ever, it doesn't mean you can't have a more optimistic view of how things could progress, but I just think if you get so caught up on how things should be, instead of just accepting the way things are, and then you can come up with a contribution or a way to deal with it yourself that's actually constructive. Accept reality. Don't resist it. And it's not pretty. A lot of times it's not a perfect ideology that makes you feel great. And it's I'm getting really off topic here, but this topic, it applies to many things though in life. I think is like, if you just Stop resisting based on the way you think things should be, because that makes you feel more comfortable, and you want to paint a picture of the world that's this ideological. People do that all the time. So that's not reality, man. And again, it doesn't mean you can't be optimistic, but understand reality first, which in this case, like, people are taking shit, okay? That's the reality. And that's not going to change anytime. Like, the things that have been invented in a lab that isolated the freaking testosterone molecule, replicate it, put it into an oil, and people start injecting. Like, that's what happened in like the 50s. Like, all these things exist. So what are we going to do, right? And I just think that, to me, the only solution is, to avoid negative, unfortunate situations, is to make sure that people actually have the proper information so they can estimate the trajectory of what they're going to get and what risks they're taking. And I think it would become much more clear to a lot of people as to whether it makes sense or not. And I think for a vast portion of people, they would actually realize, whoa, like, they considering, I'm into the gym, and I want to look bigger, and I want to get bigger muscles. And then if you can paint an accurate picture and show them the truth, I think that there's a lot of people that go, whoa, like, I'm not really that into the gym, and like, I don't want all that. It's not worth it, man. I got lots of other interests. I live a balanced life. I do all these other things, and it's not worth sacrificing my health or risking these things. Like, the gym is just kind of like, 10% of my life. So I'm just going to chill and get an arm pump and stay healthy and whatever. So anyways, if you're interested in either of those aspects, growing your arms, learning about the enhanced world, the website there is there for you. And the journey continues on our pursuit towards 21-inch arms. Got a new measurement coming again soon. I think we're probably above 19 and a quarter now, but maybe that's optimistic thinking. We will see come the beginning of December. Stay locked in. Sure. Keep training hard. Go make some freaking gains. Peace.